Hello, Grace, and welcome back to Cover to Cover. Today is April 15th, and we are covering 1 Samuel chapter 20 all the way to 21:15, and then also Psalm 34. In 1 Samuel 20, David flees from Saul in Ramah. If you remember yesterday, that's where we left off. David had fled to Ramah to be with Samuel, and Saul pursued him there. So now David is on the run again, and this time he looks for Jonathan to help him out. David lets Jonathan know that Saul is trying to kill him, and Jonathan is somewhat in disbelief. David and Jonathan then hatch a plan to assure David that he is safe, and the plan is that they're going to go to a festival, or Jonathan is going to attend the New Moon Festival, and David is going to be absent. And if Saul gets angry, then we know that he really is trying to kill David. He really is after him. Well, that's exactly what takes place. Not only is Saul angry, but he actually tries to kill Jonathan. And in the heat of the moment, he divulges exactly what he's concerned about. He says explicitly that David is going to be king and that Jonathan isn't going to have the throne. So David must flee, and Jonathan and David meet possibly for the last time. They embrace, they cry, and they swear an eternal covenantal bond that's going to endure even past death. David next flees to the town of Nob, where he meets Ahimelech, the priest. And this is interesting because Ahimelech is the chaplain of Saul. And so David recognizes him and is not certain if he can trust Ahimelech. Ahimelech sees David and starts to tremble. So you have two people that are wondering if they can trust each other, and that's how the scene opens up. David asks for provisions and for a weapon, and Ahimelech provides for him, gives him the showbread. This is referenced in the Gospels. Jesus talks about this scene. And then he also gives David the sword of Goliath. And then in an interesting bit of foreshadowing, we're told that Doeg the Edomite is there. Doeg is an ally of Saul, and he's going to come back in the story at a later time. So David flees again, and this time he goes to the town of Gath, a Philistine city. It's like, what's going on there? Why would he go there? Most likely it's a place that Saul wouldn't pursue him to. So he goes into the land of his enemies. And as soon as he gets there, what happens? Achish, the king of Gath, recognizes David. His friends tell him, hey, isn't this the man of whom they sang the song, Saul has killed his thousands and David his tens of thousands? So now David is in fear for his life once again. And so he feigns insanity in probably one of my favorite verses in the Bible. He lets the drool run down his beard, and he scribbles on the city gate. And the king of Gath says, do I have a shortage of madmen that I need another one here, that I need this fellow also? And so David's feigning of insanity secures his safety, and he's able to carry on. And so that leads us to Psalm 34. Psalm 34, the superscription tells us, is a psalm that David wrote about his time in Gath. Psalm refers to the king of Gath by the name of Ahimelech, as opposed to Achish. And so commentators have speculated that Abimelech, is actually a title. It's a designation for somebody who is a king. If you think back to Judges, that was one of Gideon's sons was named Abimelech, and it means my father is king. Psalm 34 is an acrostic, which means it goes down the Hebrew alphabet one letter at a time with a different verse signifying for each letter. It's a wisdom psalm, and it begins by praising God at all times. One of my old professors says that the psalm itself is an invitation to reflect on God's deliverance in our own lives, and then to participate communally in the thanksgiving for that deliverance. It concludes with the statement that Yahweh redeems the souls of his servants, and none of those who trust in him shall be condemned. And the phrasing there, one of the last words there is the word hesed, which means loving kindness or covenant fidelity. And this is a theme throughout all of these chapters. That the covenant faithfulness that David has with Jonathan, the covenant faithfulness that God has for his people. The superscription asks us to picture David with drool coming off of his beard and scratching on the gate. And it reminds us that this is what it means to be thankful to God at all times. This is what that looks like. In addition to that, Psalm 34:20 is quoted in John chapter 19 when it says, "Not one of his bones shall be broken." Psalm 34:8 is quoted by church fathers frequently as having a Eucharistic connotation. And 1 Peter quotes verse 13 when it talks about proper speech. So thank you very much.